Before I yield my time, Chairman Comer, do you believe that you were personally a target of an intelligence gathering operation specifically pertaining to Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein?
I have no reason to believe that. I don't have any information.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I yield my time.
Thank you. Representative Fallon? Yeah. Can you get the card? I mean,
I'll just-
okay, all right, good.
Afternoon.
Hi, could you identify yourself? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sure. Pat Fallon, 4th District of
Pat
Texas.
Fallon, okay.
Native of Massachusetts, but no one would vote for me there. I moved to Texas. So, Matt, I'm a pretty simple guy. I just want to keep things simple and just ask you some questions, give you a chance to respond. So July 25th, unanimous Oversight Subcommittee voted to subpoena yourself and your husband. On the 25th of August, Chairman Comer issued a lawful subpoena, which I would think it's fair to say you didn't cooperate. There was a lot of delays. It was August. We're now in February. The deposition was set in December, then it was delayed and moved to January, and now here we are in February. We all get accused of things. The higher you go up in the ladder, the more people are accused of things. If I don't have anything to hide, I'm eager to come in and testify. I just find that interesting. Why the delay for 6 months?
Well, I think, as I've said, we negotiated in good faith, and I believe the committee negotiated in good faith for a while because we thought, at least I'll speak for myself, that I could provide whatever information I had, which was not much, in the same form that you accepted it from former attorneys general and FBI directors who had much more direct knowledge, or could have had much more direct knowledge about the investigation you were conducting. And I found it bewildering that I couldn't provide what I knew in writing under penalty of perjury, as others had done.
Okay. I'd say better late than never, so I'm glad you are here. On the in September of 22, ABC program The View had you as a guest, and you were quoted as saying, "No one is above the law." Still agree with that?
I agree with that.
As do I, and I think Secretary Clinton, that's why you're here.
I absolutely agree with that.
When did you first meet Jeffrey Epstein?
I never met
You
Jeffrey
never yet,
Epstein.
okay. When did you first meet Ghislaine Maxwell? Ghislaine Maxwell.
I have no recollection of when I first
So
met
you
her.
might have met her, but you don't remember.
I do not.
Okay. So you'd obviously describe your relationship as pretty much non-existent with both of them.
Yeah, I had at least a casual acquaintance with her. I had
her,
nothing
okay.
with him.
Okay. Would you describe your husband's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein as limited, cordial, close?
Limited for a limited period of time with respect to using his airplane.
Okay. And how about your husband's relationship with Ms. Maxwell?
I think that they knew each other for a longer period of time.
Okay. So just for the record, in 1992, Epstein donated a grand to your husband's presidential campaign. In 93, 10 grand to the White House Historical Association while you were in the White House and your husband were. And then he visited the White House as we've said, I think ad nauseum, 17 times from 93 to 95. And then in 99, a $20,000 donation to Senate campaign or an affiliate allied campaign. And then in 2006, 25 grand to the Clinton Foundation. And then post-Clinton presidency, your husband was on the plane somewhere in the neighborhood of 26 times. Right?
I can't vouch for everything you just said. I can't vouch for.
All right, but you're not disputing it vehemently. So,
No, I'm not accepting it, but
Okay.
I can't vouch for it. I can't
Okay.
respond to
I
it.
see. All right. In 2008, Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of 2 felony counts. Correct?
Were
I
they
believe-
felonies? I don't recall.
They were federal felonies, yeah.
Were they felonies?
Your state felonies.
State felonies, okay.
Felonies nonetheless. Okay. So just bear with me on this because, again, give you a chance to respond. Your husband ran for governor 5 times. The last time in 90 or in 86, I think he got almost 500,000 votes. In 92, he got 45 million votes, 47 million in 96. When you ran in 08, you got nearly 20 million in the primary. And he was governor, you were senator, secretary of state, he was president. You've met hundreds of thousands of people, probably way more than the average typical person would. And my point here is all these millions of people that supported you and your husband, hundreds of thousands that you met. In 2010, one of the most significant events of your life is going to be your only daughter's wedding. You have 500 wedding guests from all reports. that means, and there's a groom involved, so you're distilling down to 250. Only 250 people can attend. And it's your testimony that, how did Ms. Maxwell end up at the wedding?
She was the guest of Ted Waite, who was a longtime friend of our family.
So it was just an odd coincidence that she was at one of the most, no, I mean, that's fine. If
No,
that's your testimony, that's your testimony.
I was not telling my dates who their guests could, or my guests who their dates could be.
It's just an odd coincidence, okay. See, would you describe your husband as a smart guy?
Excuse me, are you asking her to testify about her husband?
I'm not.
Instead of, because
His-
he's going to be here tomorrow, so you can
you
ask
think
questions to the witness
Ma'am.
that is for her, but it seems to me that you are
you-
asking questions that
Counselor.
are requiring opinion. Can you ask a question that is?
How long have you
with
been
respect to
married?
fact?
Can I ask that?
Oh, do I have to answer that? 50 years.
He's a pretty smart guy by all accounts. Would you agree with that? Highly intelligent. I think he is. I didn't vote for him,
Well,
but I think he
then
is.
I will,
We're gonna agree
concur
on
with
that?
your
I mean, I don't
opinion.
think that's controversial, Counselor, because everybody that I've ever met that has met your husband and has firsthand experience describes him as the smartest guy in the room when you're in the room. Very smart, scary recall. Like if he meets you 20 years later, he remembers what you wore, what they were saying, which is a great tool and asset when you're a politician. I don't think that's, so with this great recall, I'm sure it served him well in his political career. So I just find it surprising that in January 26, y'all sent a joint letter from you and him where he asserted that he, quote, didn't recall encountering Mr. Epstein or any specific interactions with him while in office.
that was his recollection.
Okay. But even though we've established that he was in the White House, Epstein, I'm talking about 17 times, and there's a public report that there were personal tours given, not only the White House, but even the residence, and somebody that smart just happened not to remember any of it. and had-
This witness can answer questions about her own declaration, about what she recalls or knew. Again, the president is going to be here tomorrow.
All right,
so he
well,
can answer
your client talked about patterns in practice. And Bill Clinton, her husband, said that he doesn't remember meeting Epstein during his time in office. Took trips with him, or took trips on his plane to New York, England, Japan, China, Singapore, Bangkok, Brunei, Rwanda, Mozambique, South Africa, France, Norway, and many more. So it's really not a question of where they went together, but where they didn't go together. Do you know the colloquial name for Little St. James Island?
No.
It's Epstein Island. Okay, I'll refer to it in both contexts. To your knowledge, did your husband ever visit Little St. James Island?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Do you know who Doug Band is?
He worked for my husband, yes.
So by reports on the press, he was a key architect of the Bill Clinton post-presidency, a top aide, the body man, the fixer, a counselor, and a close advisor. Would you disagree with any of those?
He worked for him in a number of capacities.
About 10 years, 02 to 12, I think it was.
He worked for him, I
Decade, give
I
or
don't
take.
know.
Give or take,
I
fair
can't
to say,
answer that.
give or take a decade? Okay. He's on the record as asserting that Mr. Clinton did indeed visit Epstein Island. Do you think he's lying?
Yes.
Okay, why would he lie?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Okay. And then, Virginia, have you heard of Virginia? I'm sure you didn't meet her, but have you heard of Virginia Giuffre?
I've heard about her in
She
the
was
press
I
coverage.
didn't ever meet her.
Yeah.
She was a victim of Epstein. Tragically, she didn't survive. She's no longer with us. She testified under oath that she saw Mr. Clinton on Epstein Island 2 separate occasions. You think she's lying? Or at least
I have
inaccurate?
no information whatsoever that he was ever on the
Just,
island.
just trying to be fair, why do you think that is? I mean, that's my question.
I'm
I
not
don't-
going to offer opinions.
All right, that's
I don't
fair.
have any
Okay.
information.
Further to your point earlier about practices and patterns, now there's a third person, Steve Scully. Have you ever heard of him?
Who?
Steve Scully,
Steve Scully?
yes.
I know of a Steve Scully who was at Apple.
He was an IT contractor on the infamous aforementioned island. He also asserts that he saw Mr. Clinton, and this is a quote from him, lounging around the porch area of Little St. James Villa. It's just oddly specific. Do you think this third person was lying as well?
I don't know information about
You'd
Mr.
see how that
Scully.
would, I wanted to ask you that because I find that odd. It's a pattern in practice, as you mentioned. Have you ever visited Epstein Island or Little St. James Island?
No.
Okay, so just to be clear, it is your testimony that, for instance, you never flew in a private plane, flew into St. Thomas Airport, and then didn't enter the terminal, but instead boarded a helicopter to Little St. James Island. You never did that.
I did not.
Okay. So Virginia Giuffre, who we just talked about, who we all found highly credible, I think, in a bipartisan manner, stated that Mr. Clinton walked in a Vanity Fair and threatened them, and that they better not write an expose detailing the crimes of, quote, his good friend Jeffrey Epstein. Do you find that troubling at all?
I find it not believable.
Let's turn to the current administration and president, because you said some pretty choice words of the administration and President Trump, aggressive and even some coupled with incendiary claims about President Trump and his DOJ. You fair to say that you would not describe them as transparent?
I would not describe him as transparent.
Okay. How about you were an enthusiastic supporter of Joe Biden and Vice President Harris when each of them respectively ran for president?
I was.
Okay. Would you describe the Biden-Harris administration as an administration that was committed to transparency?
To the best of their ability.
Okay. You also asserted, and if I get this wrong, please let me know, that, or at least insinuated that President Trump was closer to Epstein than your husband, socially.
I think there's an enormous amount of evidence that goes back many, many years demonstrating their relationship.
Okay. Do you know how many times Jeffrey Epstein visited the Trump 45 White House?
I do not know.
By all accounts and evidence, 0. And how many times did he visit the Clinton White House?
I don't know.
That was 17 times. How much did Jeffrey Epstein ever donate to Donald Trump politically?
I have no idea.
There was 0. But we have established that he donated to either you or your husband or your committees 21 grand. Not agree?
I have no information that, is personally based about their relationship.
Jeffrey Epstein donated $35,000 to foundations. One was a $10,000 donation to the White House Historical Society in '93 when the Clintons, your family, was in the White House. He donated, and then there was that 2006 donation for 2006 donation to the Clinton Foundation. He's donated similarly to the Trump White House, never, no foundations either. How many pages of the Epstein files were released by the Oversight Committee in 2021 to 23 when the Democrats were in the majority?
I have no idea.
It was 0.
But there was also an ongoing investigation
Is that unopened?
of, I believe, Ghislaine Maxwell during that time period.
So the answer is, I can share with you, is 0. How many pages did the Biden Department of Justice release from the Epstein files from 21 to 25?
I have no personal information. I have read that because of the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, that was not done, but I have no personal information.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was 0.